Пані та панове, ми
Dear ladies and gentlemen, we are starting our new brief. So our guest is Serhiy Shkarlet, Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine. Welcome, Minister. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Tell us about the education system of Ukraine in the wartime. One of our major objectives as the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine was to keep the educational process running in wartime. I'll quote Winston Churchill: "If we do not educate our children, then we will have to build jails." 13 regions of Ukraine resumed their schools. Some resumed online, some offline. In 4 regions, there is, let's say, vacation time, so they can't resume their educational process. In a few regions, they had to suspend the educational process. In Luhansk and Zaporizhia, they also suspended the educational process. In Chernihiv, we don't have information from them because the situation is dire there. Speaking of daycare, kindergartens, in 8 regions of Ukraine, kindergartens resumed their operations, especially in the regions where there are a lot of internally displaced people within Ukraine. Kindergartens are also using their communication resources in order to communicate and stay in touch with their parents. We are using UNICEF platform called NUMO. 55,000 children Ukraine-wide. These are school children. They have the status of temporarily displaced people. Most of them ended up in Lviv region, 11,000, and they all resumed school. So thanks to Lviv schools. What damage was caused to Ukrainian education system by the war? It's hard to estimate the damage because more than 730 Ukrainian educational institutions were either partially or fully damaged. We will rebuild our schools for sure, but 134 children that died will never be brought back to life. Many more were injured. This is unheard aggression that Russia is causing to our country. Children are either injured or killed almost every day, unfortunately. We have different statistics. Between 1.5 million to 1.8 million minors left Ukraine since the beginning of the war. How can they resume school? Do you have any tips for those children? Any recommendations? I'm grateful for this question. The Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine and personally myself, I talked to my colleagues in EU countries. I know that majority of our school children ended up in EU countries. We organized an online meeting with the Council of Ministers of Education of EU countries. That was on the 16th of March. All EU countries provided unprecedented support to our school children. They tried to include them into schools, universities, colleges, kindergartens. This support was provided to our refugees who had to flee the war and they ended up in Europe. But that's not all. We have a lot of online platforms that we offer to Ukrainian school children. They can continue their education because this is in line with academic curriculum of our schools. We actually have COVID experience. We have a national online school platform This is one of the best platforms that had been developed in line with national standards of education. Together with TV channels, we have started the channel which is called Without Limits, Megogo Star, 1+1. There are online lessons that are available to our students and they can learn that way. We also have online schedule that is available to everybody and children can join this online schedule and can get educated. There are also private schools, Atmosferna Школа, Optima, Liko, Academy, One Plus. So they offered their services, online educational services. They are licensed by the Ministry of Education of Ukraine. And if children follow their curriculum, so then they can get the certificate of secondary education after they fully complete this curriculum. So every child has a chance to continue education in one or another way. Every child will get the certificate of secondary education regardless where they are. If they are temporarily displaced, then we need a statement from one of the parents and the child can join any school in order to continue education. Our ministry, together with the colleagues of the departments of education, principals of schools, teachers, tutors, we are all trying to make sure that our school children have access to educational processes. Do you have a clear understanding how school leavers are going to enter universities, colleges, institutes? This is a very difficult, very challenging year. And in cooperation with the Committee of the Education, Science and Innovations, having talked to the parent community, having talked to educators, professors, teachers, we have registered Law 71.32 that has been voted and enacted by the Parliament, and we are going to make changes, one-time changes to the admission to universities. We want this process to be as transparent as possible and free of corruption, and we are going to use the digitalization opportunities, and we are going to make sure that the admission to universities is going to be as transparent and corruption-free as possible. Lots of people keep asking me questions, especially those who are leaving school this year, who are finishing high school and would like to get to university, college, and get bachelor's degree or go to vocational school. So, if you have a certificate of secondary education and you would like to get a bachelor's degree, then we are going to take into account your academic results of your certificate of secondary education. Also, if you need to take additional exams, for example, if you are an artist or competing athlete, so you will have to take this additional exam in this college or university. We are also using all the findings of the committees of education, innovation and science, and we are going to use it as the foundation for this process. Children who have left school, who have graduated from school, so they also will be what will be taken into account is their academic results. Also, they will need to take additional exams required by universities and colleges. There will be also the national multi-subject test. So that's actually the the equivalent of external independent testing, but it will be simplified test. Basically, instead of 3 different exams, school leavers will have to take 1 exam. So taking into account security issues, possibility of air raid sirens. So instead of taking 3 different exams, school children will have to take 1. And also they will have to send the application and motivational letter. If you want to get master's degree, if you already have a bachelor's degree, so then you will have to take 3 exams that has already been done for years. Also, you need to send the motivational letter, and also in some cases your competence might be taken into account. If you are paying for your education, then only motivational letter is enough. So basically, we will take into account academic achievements of each school leaver, and we need to take into account that there are instances of soft educational looting, we call it. And there is such a tool as headhunting, which is known worldwide. So our talented university students are lured to go and live abroad. So of course we can only encourage them to take the decision which they want to. Back to this multi-subject test. So students will have to take Ukrainian language, math and history of Ukraine. So 3 subjects, but that'll be 1 test. Is that the final decision? That's a recommendation. Some children were getting ready to take exam in chemistry and biology, but we would like to provide equal opportunities to every school leaver. We also are considering to apply different coefficients depending on which university, which department the student wants to enter. But that's only recommendation, it's not final yet. We have 1.5 million minors who left our country. Physically, lots of children have no chance to go to school even online. There are also headhunters who are trying to lure our talented youth. So what can we do in order to avoid disaster in educational sector? The Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, given the conditions we are operating in right now, we are trying to do all we can to make sure that each and every child, wherever they are, abroad or here, internally displaced within Ukraine, they have access to school and educational process. Together with UNICEF Child Foundation, we are trying to develop some solutions to provide access to children so that they can continue their educational process. We are trying to use best practice, and everybody is trying to help Ukraine so that our children, if they can, when it is peaceful here, so they can come back and continue their education here. I know that the Czech Republic, Baltic countries, Poland, they involved children who are temporarily displaced into the educational process of their country. And children have a chance to learn Ukrainian language, the history of Ukraine, even if they go to Polish schools or Czech schools, so that they do not forget their mother tongue. And once the war is over and they are back, so they have the chance to be involved into rebuilding our country.